So thanks for joining, everyone. Appreciate you're here. I hope you're all rested, ate lunch, saw a couple of sessions, and you're ready for the highlight of the day, which is talking about database migrations, a topic that everyone loves. So my name is Shachar. I'm the product manager for the database migration service. With me, I have Kerry from Google Cloud Black Belt team and Gareth from HSBC. So I attended a few sessions, and especially in the databases track, I see many, many innovations, right? Cloud SQL Enterprise Plus, you have MySQL Postgres, SQL Server, you have AlloyDB with AlloyDB AI, you have Spanner, DataBoost. All of those great offerings that we have, you need to build a bridge to get to those places. And this is exactly what we're doing. What we're going to talk about is migration. So how we're getting there, and now we're helping you to get there. So why customers are moving to the cloud? We're at Cloud Next. I think that most of you know why people are coming to the cloud, but just like a general highlight, and specifically in databases. So first, no one wants to manage the database. No one wants to manage infrastructure. It takes time. It takes budget. You're always concerned waking up in the middle of the night thinking about maintenance and upgrades. When you're moving to the cloud, and especially in managed database offering, you're getting rid of all of that. You're getting the entire budget that you used to spend on teams, on your databases, on servers, and now this entire budget, or most of this budget, is vacant. You can spend it on your business, on your new customer experiences. The second is that only the cloud can offer globally scalable, performant, available services. So if you would try to build it on your own, it would be very, very hard. In the cloud, we offer databases, for example, Spanner is a good example, that are as available, performant. So this is the two main motivations. And if I'm digging a little bit deeper into database migrations, what we see is there are three types of journeys to the cloud. Again, if you ever did a database migration, this seems to be familiar. The first one is the migrate journey. This is the basic lift and shift. So I have a customer that is MySQL, Postgres, SQL Server, and just want to move to the same flavor in the cloud. So I'm a MySQL customer, I'm moving to CloudSQL for MySQL. I'm a Postgres, moving to CloudSQL for Postgres, or AlloyDB for Postgres, SQL Server, the same. The expectation from customers is one click, right? They don't need to worry about anything else. They're not re-platforming, they don't need to translate anything, and the expectation is that give me one click, and I'm there, I'm in Cloud SQL. The second type of journey is the modernized journey. This is the journey where it's much more complex, but still, it's just a matter of translating your source language to your destination language. I'm in a proprietary legacy Oracle database, and I want to move to open source, Postgres, AlloyDB, whatever in the cloud, but I'm changing the engines. This is more complex, but I'm not going into replatforming, right? I don't want to change my application layer. All I want to do is just go from one engine to another engine. Again, not an easy task, but definitely doable. And the third type of journey is the transform journey. This is where you're moving to a cloud-native database. I already mentioned Spanner. So think about all the possibilities that Spanner can offer you with the global available, globally scalable, performant, and now basically, you would want to re-platform your application. Because what you want to do, you want to basically take these amazing capabilities of the database and just create new experiences and offering for your customers. So those are the three journeys. Today in the session, we're going to focus on the modernize journey. So I already mentioned a bit, but migrations are complex. I know that personally, I don't like changes. Even thinking about moving a house or moving an apartment from, to next door makes me anxious. I know that moving your data from one place to another place is extremely challenging, especially in the heterogeneous or modernized journey. Migrations are complex. There are dependencies. People always think about migration, database migrations, a DBA sitting in the dark and just clicking 3 clicks and that's it. It's never the case. There is always a networking team, application team, CIO, CFO to the total cost, how much time did it take. You need to plan. So especially in heterogeneous migration, there is organizational complexity within. Because there is organizational complexity, it's time-consuming. We saw migrations that start and end, and I mean migration, I mean the entire process, not just the clicks part. The process of advocating for migration, and then until the point that the database is on the other side, we saw processes that it takes a day. We saw processes it takes years. You need to get the entire organization on board. The second thing is that you need to move the data in a reliable way. No one wants to lose data while they're migrating, and this is exactly one of the risks, and why customers are super anxious about it. They want to make sure that when they are moving from one part, from the source to the target, they're not losing any data, and the lifeline of their business, their data, stays as is. So after I make you anxious about database migrations, I want to show you how we address database migrations in Google Cloud. So we invest in like 3 pillars. The first is product. This is what I represent. We are investing to build, and I believe that we are building the best migration product in the market. We want the migration, first of all, to be simple, intuitive, straightforward. We don't want you to do anything that you don't need to do, right? So we're trying to build, and I believe that we are building the best product in the market. We do realize, though, that if it will be the perfect product, let's say that I'm building the perfect product, there is still a room for expertise, and this is exactly why Kerry is here. You still need the nudge, and you need the team that made thousands of migrations with multiple customers to give you the right nudge around how you plan the migration. Again, this is not an easy process, and this is exactly why the expertise is here, and Kerry will address it later on. And the funding, so we're giving the right incentives to move to the cloud. So those are the 3 pillars, and as I promised, let's start with the product. So the product is Database Migration Service. We're a native migration tooling for databases. We are a one-stop shop for your database migrations. When I say one-stop shop, it means that you're starting your migration in DMS, and you're ending then in DMS. If you ever used DMS, you know that it's super simple. You have a lot of things that you're not expecting from a service to have. For example, baked-in configuration support, lots of in-product documentations, lots of validations. So as a user of migrations in the past, the one thing that was super frustrating for me was that I started a migration or any kind of application, I hit start, and then 2 days after, it would fail. Or there was some configuration, I don't know, that it would take 30 minutes for it to fail. We allow to test everything before you actually start the migration. So we're letting you know that you're in the right path all the time. We're serverless. That means that you're not responsible for the actual migration. You're responsible for configuring everything on the source correctly, or the destination. But we are serverless. You're not maintaining any servers. You're not paying for any servers. And it auto-scales with your data. In addition, for every use case that we're supporting minimal downtime migration. So like 0 disruption or close to 0 disruption to your application, which again, for most customers, this is like the #1 priority. And we're compatible and secure. We are a Google product. You would expect Google product to be compatible and secure. On our end is, of course, all the security that you're familiar with. But in addition, we are allowing you to migrate on top of private connectivity the way that you want to migrate. So I will talk about the offering and what we support today, and then we'll dive into heterogeneous migration or the modernize. So MySQL Postgres to cloud with MySQL and Postgres was the first use case that we supported. It's been out a while. It's in GA, available for all, no additional cost. Basically, the way that we're addressing homogeneous migration is that the most reliable way to migrate is using native technology of the engine itself. We don't need a black box. We don't need any proprietary mechanism in order to move the data. The most reliable way would be using the native replication technology. This is what we do with MySQL, with Postgres. It supports minimal downtime migration, and it utilizes native replication. One metric that I'm extremely proud of is that more than 85% of the migration are underway in less than an hour. When I say underway, it means that from the moment that the customer set or user set and you start using DMS to the point that the migration is running, more than 85% of the cases, it will take them less than an hour. It means that there is no long pre-configuration. It's very clear what you need to do. Again, we're extremely proud. And if you liked PostgreSQL migrations to Cloud SQL for Postgres, you would love PostgreSQL to RDB for Postgres. It's basically the same thing, right? RDB is, Postgres, highly performant Postgres, enterprise class workloads. And the same way that you're doing that in Postgres to Cloud SQL Postgres, you're doing Postgres to AlloyDB for Postgres, we see a huge demand for AlloyDB, and DMS meets you there and helps you do that. Again, super easy. It's in GA as well. By the way, we released GA a couple of months ago, and it does utilize native replication technology. And I'm extremely excited, you can see that I'm excited, to announce that we're now GA for our Oracle to PostgreSQL migration, the modernize journey. It means that you can start doing modernization and get out of like the Oracle proprietary database and move to the CloudSQL for Postgres or to AlloyDB for Postgres today. So we're, again, serverless, and we're helping you to reduce the cost of these like Oracle licenses. And in addition, the main thing that I want to announce today is that we are introducing code and schema conversion within DMS. I mentioned one-stop shop, but this is exactly what I mean. You're not using multiple tools. You're not using one tool to do code and schema, one tool to do data migration, and then you need to think if they will work together. Everything is baked into DMS. So we have integrated code and schema conversion into DMS. We have a seamless transition between the conversion and the data movement. We are empowered by CompilerWorks under the hood. So CompilerWorks is an amazing technology that does code translation. It's actually being used in BigQuery migrations as well. It's powered by Duet AI. I don't know if you heard about something that's called AI. I think a couple of sessions mentioned it. But both in Thomas' session, in Andy keynote yesterday, we are using Duet AI. How are we using Duet AI? So we do understand that you can never have 100% automatically conversion of your source and your code, right? Every code has the art of the developer. That an automatic tool might be hard for him to understand what's going on. So when you work on DMS and when you update the code for places that we weren't able to convert, DMS learns and takes LLM models in order to understand places that they can extrapolate the code that is in other places, which basically means we're saving you a lot of time. Instead of doing that 3,000 times, you're doing that once, twice, and that's it. We're flexible, simple, intuitive, and predictable. But again, this is just words. Let me show you a demo. So before I'm going into the demo, a reminder. Again, if you're a DMS user, you are familiar with that, but if not, so we have resources in DMS. We have connection profile, represents the connection to the source and the target. We have private connectivity that represents how we are connecting to the source on top of private connectivity. We have the conversion workspace. Again, this is the new thing that we added that is the playground for everything related to code and schema conversion. This is where I will focus today. And we have a migration job that takes the connection profile, conversion workspace, private connectivity, get it all together. All those resources are reusable across multiple migration jobs. So you can configure it once and then just reuse it. Super simple. Now let's hope that the demo will work. OK. I would start with creating a conversion workspace. So a conversion workspace, my playground, schema, and code conversion. I will add a couple of details to it. And instantly, I will see all the pre-configuration that I need to do on my Oracle source and my Postgres. Again, in product documentation. You don't need to go to external documentation. Everything is within the product. After I'm doing that, the next step, obviously, would be to define the connection to the source. In this case, I already have a connection profile that I can use. So I will click it. And then the next step would be the DMS pulls the entire source objects from the source. Not only tables, not only like data objects. We do pull views, store procedures, functions, constraints, indexes, and we rely on you the flexibility to choose where you want to start the conversion with. We heard customers saying, I don't want everything. I just want to start, let's say, I want to analyze how you convert my store procedure. And this is exactly where you do that. I'm going to choose here tables, functions, views, and store procedures. I'm going to click Next, and DMS will automatically convert all of those objects, and I would land into the very cool, honestly, conversion workspace editor. So let's click Convert and Continue. And this is the main playground, the conversion workspace, where I can see my source and all conversion issues and statuses. And in addition, if I would click on the top, and you can see that I can see my PostgreSQL, CloudSQL PostgreSQL tree, which is how DMS converted my Oracle source. The next step would be to analyze my statuses. So there are 3 types of statuses on the source, or the conversion statuses. No issues, everyone are happy. There are review recommended, which means that there might be some precision that you need to be aware of. So it's kind of a warning, right? You will see an example here. So there are like precision that you need to take, that you need to understand, but it's not really a conversion issue. And the third is action required, which means that DMS was not able to convert the objects, and now I need to take care of it. And now let's take an example. CSGO doesn't exist. DMS allows you via SQL editor, when he showed you the SQL of the source and the SQL of the target, to actually edit it within DMS. Again, no need to go to an IDE, just within the product, do everything. I'm going to add an extension, change it, and voila, when I save SQL, the object status changed to modify. Okay? The next step after that would be, okay, I'm fine with this schema, I want to add another schema, right? I said flexibility, I'm going to add an additional schema, and now I would convert again. And DMS will take into consideration both of the schemas, right? So we're taking into account everything that's on the source and you added. And now after I'm doing the convert, I see that everything looks okay. I'm moving to the cloud of PostgreSQL. I see that this is how the Postgres tree would look like. And now the next step would be to apply to destination. Apply means taking the converted schema and the converted code and create them on the destination. As always in DMS, you can do tests before that. So you can test and see if the code is executable. But in this case, it's a demo. Let's be wild and go straight to apply. We will choose a connection profile to the destination. We will check that we have connectivity to the destination and we can reach it. And again, another level of flexibility. We don't obligate you to choose everything. You can choose specific objects that you want to start with apply, right? There are cases that you would like to work in iterations. So choosing your objects, applying them, that's it. Now I'm ready to run a migration. It's that easy. See, create migration job within DMS, start defining the migration job, name, ID, prerequisites. If you ever did it, you are familiar with that. Define the source connection profile, destination connection profile, and the next step would be to configure which objects I want to migrate. Again, I might apply the entire source, but I want to start with specific objects. I want to start with only like 2 tables, and then add more tables. Again, flexibility is a key for DMS. I'm choosing the objects. Next step would be to run the final test for the migration to see that everything is working, and that's it. The migration is now ready to run, and everyone are happy. So to summarize, this is our investment in product, right? And as I was saying, product is not enough. Unfortunately, I wish I could build a perfect product, especially for migration, but that's why we have stars like Kerry that can help you with the expertise part. Kerry?
Okay. Hold my water for me.
Okay, that's what I'm here for.
Yes, as Shachar said, their heterogeneous migrations are not straightforward a lot of times, right? Particularly if we have a large landscape of databases and we're trying to move a complex set of code that's been written maybe over the last 20 years, right? And we're trying to go from one platform to another, which means the dialect that we speak, even though it's SQL, which is relatively similar across database platforms, there are still all kinds of nuances and unique things about every database. So our team, there's this team called the Database Black Belt team. I didn't come up with the name, but the idea is that, we have a very specialized team that spent, almost their complete careers. We still have a little life left in us, but, a very long time working in the database space. And so we've been through lots of big migrations, lots of performance tuning kind of exercises, et cetera. So very deep expertise in the database. But the combination of a set of people that have that kind of expertise combined with a tool that allows us to do all the stuff that was just described means that we can go to a large company with a lot of databases and we can build something that looks like, I hate to say the word, but a migration factory, right? How are we going to come up with a repeatable process that applies to your specific way that you've used your database, whether that's an Oracle database or a SQL Server database, but basically a legacy relational database. So anyway, that's the team and what we do. And it is to try to give customers a white glove experience, right? We're not a billable group. We're not part of the PSO or professional services organization. We're basically a part of the engineering team that's designed to work, to do two things. One, to work closely with enterprise and interesting customers that have hard problems to solve. And the second thing is to work directly with engineering to help bring back the lessons learned through those projects to improve the tooling. And CompilerWorks is a good example. We've spent a lot of time over the last year as we've gone through a couple of projects, making that product better and better and better. And so we're now to the point where we're very confident that we can do, very high level conversion automatically, right? So we're not talking about 50% or 70% or even 80%. We're talking, in the upper percentages, right? Now that doesn't mean that if we say we have a 90% conversion rate, that we've eliminated 90% of the work, because as you can imagine, the parts that we're not converting automatically are the hardest parts. So that 10% may take 20% of the effort, right? But in general, it's going to be a huge reduction in the amount of effort that we have to do one of those conversions. So just real briefly, you guys are all familiar with what it takes to move. There's two main pieces. This is kind of a schematic diagram. There's two main pieces that I want you guys to know about. One is, how do I get started? So there's an assessment tool called Database Migration Assessment. That's something that our team has built over the last year and a half. And that knows about our conversion code. So, and this may be surprising, but this tool will actually estimate an hourly estimate of how much time it's going to take to convert, let's say, an Oracle database to Postgres, including all the code conversion. And since we know about CompilerWorks and what it's capable of, we can eliminate immediately all the effort that goes into the parts that are automatically converted. And we're anxious to have as many people as can try the assessment and then try a project with us to see how accurate those estimates are and improve those estimates over time. But that's one piece of it. Second piece is, I wanted to mention, and you guys know this all already, the code conversion is far and away the long pole in the tent, right? If we're taking, again, a 20-year legacy database application on SQL Server and converting that to Postgres, that code conversion is really the hardest part, right? And so that's where we tend to spend a lot of time and where we tend to get bogged down. So again, this code conversion is super important to what we're doing. And so our team, part of what we do is we, help people run through that automatic code conversion, but we also will sit down and go, okay, this thing is not converted. Let's say it's something hard like bulk collect on Oracle. That's a very difficult thing to translate automatically. So we can take a shot at it. It may not be perfect for an instance of that, and we can sit down and say, this is how we would reproduce that in Postgres, and give that back as an example to the customer to say, the things that we've got to do that, can't be done automatically, this is the pattern that you would follow to do that. And then the AI thing that Shachar, mentioned and showed you, this interface that we have now also allows one of our guys to sit down and actually map that out and say, this is how I would rewrite this thing that's not covered in our deterministic AST-based conversion, and let the AI tool attempt to find every other instance that matches that pattern, and then apply that single shot or double shot kind of learning to those things, right? We still are going to have to go through those and make sure that those are completely accurate, but again, it's a reduction by 80–90% of the effort to do that, instead of having to manually go to 500 of these bulk collects and manually rewrite it. Does that all make sense? Any questions about that before I go any further? Okay. I've already talked about the migration tool, so I'll just skip over this, but imagine a fleet-wide assessment tool that will let you look at several hundred or thousands of databases and then report on those and stack them up so that you can see it from different angles. But one of the main ways of doing this is to try to plan waves of migrations. So let's say you're like a Deutsche Bank that has 10,000 databases that they want to migrate. that's not going to happen overnight, right? We're going to pick some set of them. Hopefully it's something that's on the easier end of the scale and attack those first and get the kinks out of the process while we're building this repeatable process. Then we're going to go on to the next one, right? Or for pilots, right? If we were going to try to do not just the easy ones, but maybe pick a medium one, pick an easy one, pick a really hard one, and go through that process as part of a pilot so that the tool can do that for us. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just hand wave a little bit and set up for Gareth, who's going to talk about an actual project that we did with HSBC. So earlier this year, we started a project that was, very similar to what I've described already, but to build a migration factory is what we're looking to do for up to 6,000 databases that we wanted to move. And the idea is we're going to pick 3 or 4 or 5 databases. This project was a combination project with our professional services team and the Black Belt team. So we're providing expertise to help get over the hump. But the professional services team is the guys that are there to really build the migration factory and turn that over to HSBC. Of course, the HSBC application teams are, very heavily involved in this process. And so is the engineering team on the DMS side. This was actually done while we were in private preview. It wasn't even a GA product at the time we started it. So again, right team, right knowledge, right tools, basically that combination is what we're trying to provide, all right? And with that, I'll turn it over to Gareth and let him talk about, the really important part, which is how did this thing play out with a real customer.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, so I think my angle on this is, so I like the word migration factory, by the way. I think it's a good idea. It's a good concept. I think my angle on this, and a bit of preamble, first of all. So HSBC, very complicated global organization. From the very large shipping of trade around the world, number 1 trade bank. You can see there $800 billion worth of transactions on an annual basis. Requires an awful lot of processing behind the scenes, requires those 6,000 Oracle databases Kerry mentioned behind the scenes, a lot of complexity everywhere. So we have the largest of the largest of scale. We have the smallest of the smallest. The bottom left is a mobile app built natively on Google using only native database and container technology. So we like to have the worst of the worst, we like to have the best of the best, but ultimately we need to shift from one to the other. And as Shachar said, as Kerry said, we need a repeatable, trustworthy process. This is part of a wider journey that we're on as an organization. A lot of this is very familiar to you. How do we get products to market quicker for our customers, which is probably some of you in the room, our global footprint of retail, commercial products, trade products, digital banking apps everywhere. How do we get products to market quicker? We know we cannot do that on our own. We'd be foolish enough. We're entrusted with your money, not with your technology. That's what we trust these guys for, and some of you in the room. We trust Google for their technology. Hopefully, a few of you trust us with your money. That's the partnership we're trying to move to here. In order to do that, it's got to be resilient, it's got to be secure, it's got to be as frictionless as possible. And again, it's got to have that scale to it. I can't emphasize enough the scale problems we have as a global organization. So the partnership with Google started 5 years ago, right on the cusp of when Google were trying to sort of, I think, break into the enterprise customer and consumer market. Nobody's ever going to question the scale, the volume of the Google apps, the 9 apps that serve over 1 billion customers each. We're not going to compete with that. But what Google had to learn very quickly is how do you work with an enterprise financial services client? How do you work with an enterprise automotive client? How do you work with an enterprise energies client that operates in 50, 60, 80, 100 countries with regulated markets? We have 400 regulators we have to satisfy on an annual basis who want to know where their customers' money is at any one time. So the partnership with Google was about building their product set, enhancing it to meet the rigor of a financial services organization, but enabling us to grow our digital footprint, enabling us to expand into technology that we couldn't have done on our own. We couldn't have released new products to market. We couldn't have gotten more secure. We couldn't have scaled without this partnership with Google. So I usually only have one slide for this presentation, and this is the one slide. On that partnership, on that scale, constant tech evolution, the one problem I have is standing still. Standing still as a large company with thousands of databases, thousands of applications, is standing still costs me money. It costs me a lot of money. Just keeping the lights on costs our organization an awful lot of money. Yeah, I won't go into the details, but just keeping an application current, keeping it free from vulnerabilities. We talked about Log4j this morning. I wish it took us only a week to tackle Log4j. Yeah? We're still tackling the remnants of it now because we couldn't discover everything was. We couldn't get to every server out there. We couldn't get to every database service out there just to look at our exposure because we don't have the tools, we don't have the technology, and we're fighting years and years of legacy. Again, really resonating to this morning's keynote. We are fighting with years of legacy. But I'll repeat what was said this morning. Legacy is good. Legacy is where your money is stored, so legacy has to be very good. But the challenge still is, it costs us money to stand still. We need to accelerate our technology migration. We can build new stuff on cloud to meet new regulations, to meet new mobile app propositions, to get the new funky things out there. But what about the rest of our technology? I think that's what started our journey to a factory. It's not an old concept. Sorry, it's not a new concept. It's been around for a long time, you know, the rehost, replatform, re-architect. But for us, the factory is making it a compelling reason for our application teams, our application owners to move to a new technology. When it costs them an awful lot of money to stand still, it costs them even more money to do something to change their application. It costs them more money and it costs them downtime to change their application. They haven't got that. So we've got to give them a compelling reason to move. And that's why we came up with the idea for the migration factory. The challenge is that graph on the top right of the screen. You can see a couple of lines that disappear off into the sunset. That's the top one really is the line of do nothing and your cost base increases year on year. If you do not touch that Oracle database, that Sybase database, a DB2 database, and it grows, and you have to keep it running, you have to keep it patch free, you have to upgrade the infrastructure underneath, you have to keep it current to latest versions. That line just keeps going up and up and up. You've not done anything to improve the functionality and feature of that. You just kept the lights on. And then you can see the bit of red shading at the bottom of that table. That's the size of the opportunity that we're trying to grab hold of from a dollar perspective. And the longer this goes out, the opportunity gets greater, but the cost gets even further away from us. So what we're trying to do is come up with a way to stop that line growing and growing and growing, and to realize the opportunity of transforming and modernizing our services. I think that's what really kicked off the need to say to Google, guys, we're all in with you, but we need a way to get from A to B. We need a repeatable process. We need a hands-off keys process. We need a process we can audit, a process we can log, a process we can scale. And that's what started the journey with the database migration service. We have a clear intent to move some, if not all, of those 6,000 Oracle databases and modernize our infrastructure entirely. But we know this is only the start of the journey. The Oracle to Postgres will only be the very start of the journey for us. We're very excited to work with these guys on Oracle to Alloy, hopefully Alloy Omni as well, because we know the scale that we have around Oracle and its global instances can only be met by some of the more scalable, robust services from Google. So all of this one slide really encapsulates our modernization journey and the opportunity that if we don't take, we miss. The costs keep going away, the estate keeps getting bigger. I think on that note really is I really don't mind doing the sell here on you guys' behalf, is the partnership we've chosen. You know, a few of my engineering team in Hong Kong and London, a few of Kerry's team and Shachar's team, they just got together and worked as a virtual team. Yeah? These are the problem statements. Here's our complexity. Here's a way of tackling through with the expertise. Here are the products available to you. I think without that, I think we wouldn't have got where we are today. We certainly wouldn't have got the opportunity now to start moving those databases. I think that all comes back to, I think my one sort of, when I finish on this is, it's not an unfamiliar message to any of you. Without the products and services in place, we cannot make it a compelling reason to go to our business owners, our finance owners, our application teams, and say, come on guys, there is no reason why you should not be modernizing and migrating your services. I think, Shachar, that's it.
Yeah.
Over to you for questions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, I cannot be more fortunate than having, HSBC and Gareth, both as a customer and as a partner. I think the entire story is like music for my ears, and we're really happy to continue that with RDB Omni. So I hope that you're now convinced that database migrations is a complex problem, but we got you covered in Google Cloud and with our organization. You can get started today. Everything that we presented here is GA or available for in preview. You can just go to the console to start using it. We have the documentation, and there are multiple sign-up forms, both in the DMS site and in the console. Just send us a sign-up or give us your email, and I personally will contact you.